Hi, my students. This video here is going to hopefully get you started on activity C of our gizmo on cell types. Okay, so in activity C, we're going to be exploring plants and unicellular life. Okay, up until this point, we took a closer look at the human. We were able to compare the different cells of the human, and we were able to compare the human to other organisms. Okay, we looked at the human versus the frog, the worm, and the mouse. Okay, so we're going to shift gears right now. We're going to look at some unicellular organisms and plants. Specifically, we're going to look at microalgae, allodia, maple leaves, and the roots of a maple tree. Okay, so again, the roots, the leaves, the microalgae, and the allodia. All right, if we're looking at our lab, it's telling us the introduction. Most of the animals and plants we are familiar with are multicellular, meaning they are made up of many cells. However, many living things only consist of a single cell. These microscopic organisms are unicellular. All right, so we're not as familiar with the unicellular organisms because we need a microscope to see them. But there's a lot of them around that we're going to start to explore now. Okay, so it says, how are unicellular organisms similar to multicellular organisms? Okay, for this part, it's asking you to compare the microalgae, the allodia, the maple leaf cells, and the root hair cells at high power, 400x. It's then asking us to hand draw in the circles or to use the drawing tool. I don't actually want you guys to do that. Okay, drawings are important. It's great to have sketches because it allows us to make our observations, but it's a little bit tedious for us to do this on the computer right now. All right, so I'm actually going to open up a document for you guys. If you give me a second, sign into our account. Okay, this document here, I actually took images of our samples and I put them side by side. There we go. Okay, so hopefully this makes your observations a little bit easier to see. Okay, we're scrolling down. Here we go. Okay, and on our screen, we are able to view the samples of the 4 types of cells they were asking us to look at. Okay, so the upper left-hand corner over here, this is your microalgae. Okay, this is your microalgae. Over here, we're seeing the allodia. Okay, allodia, which is a freshwater plant. Microalgae, microscopic, can't see it without a microscope. Down here we have the maple leaf. And okay, so our maple leaf is up here. And then the root hairs, okay, the root hairs, which we find in the root of a plant. All right, so let's take a minute, actually pause the video right now, and let's just look at these structures. Okay, what do you notice? What's similar? What's different about the cells in these images? Okay, pause the video and jot down some observations you have. Okay, for me, I notice the color kind of stands out to me. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of green here. Okay, definitely a lot of green. And look at the structure of the cells themselves. How are they aligned with each other? Okay, let's go back to our lab and let's read our questions. What structures do all of these cells have in common? What structures are missing from the root hair cells? What is the purpose of this structure and why do you think it's missing? Okay, so just by reading these questions, I was able to see that the root hair cells are missing something that all of the other structures have in common, all the other cells have in common. Okay, so let's take a look at this now. Okay, for structures, you are writing the names of the organelles. So you're going to go through each sample and you're going to see which organelles every cell has. Okay, I'm going to make a prediction right now. I'm thinking every cell has a nucleus. Let's double check. I see a nucleus here in my microalgae. Is there a nucleus in the Alodia? Oh, it is right over here. The maple leaf has a nucleus, and the root hair also has a nucleus. Okay, so if you see the structure in all 4 of these pictures, you are going to add that structure here. Okay, at this point, you can pause the video again, so this way you can read the names of the structures, and you are writing the answers in your document. Okay, then we're going to take a closer look. The root hair is missing something. Okay, what structure is the root hair missing that the other cells have? You're going to record your answer for B. Okay, what is the purpose of this structure and why do you think it is missing? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, for this question, I want you to actually look at the maple tree, the structure of the tree. Okay, think about what leaves do for a tree and think about the purpose of the roots. Okay, also think about the location. Where are the roots located versus the leaves? That will help you answer question C. Okay, after that, it's going on to talk about photosynthesis. Okay, so here's a hint for you all. Your answer for C should have something to do with photosynthesis and sunlight. All right, and our last question, our last part of this question, we're looking at the algae cells. How are the algae different from other cells? If we continue to read, it's telling us microalgae are examples of unicellular organisms. Each cell itself is an organism. Okay, so if we look at the algae, this right here, that's an organism. Okay, this is an organism. This is another organism. If we were to compare this to people, it would be like a group of people all hanging out with each other. These are all individual living things. Okay, so now let's look at the structure of the microalgae. How are these cells structured differently than the Alodia? Okay, Alodia, which is multicellular, the root hair, which is multicellular, and the maple leaf. Okay, what's a major difference you see in those cells? All right, pause the video again and let's type in our answer. Okay, our very next question, and the last question we're going to do right now is question 2. What other samples in the gizmo do you think represent unicellular organisms? Okay, unicellular, meaning they are only one cell. All right, so let's look at our gizmo. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, something to think about is size. Multicellular organisms you can usually see with just your eyes. Okay, so I'm thinking the cow over here is probably multicellular. The trees are multicellular. The fly is multicellular. Which organisms in this sample would you need a microscope to see? If you would need a microscope to see the organism, it would be unicellular. Okay, so you are going to give me your answers for that in this box down here for question number 2. Okay, we're going to stop here and we're going to do another video for the next part.